You are Locked On Irish, your daily podcast on the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up and welcome in to a special instant reaction edition of Locked On Irish. We actually have done a few of these already this offseason, but this time around, we've got some good news to talk about as Notre Dame is expected to hire Penn State running back coach Ja'Juan Seider for the same position, according to ESPN's Pete Thamel. I'm Tyler Wojciak, and I'm the host. I'm a Notre Dame alum and producer at Fox Sports. And quick reminder to subscribe on your preferred platform. That way, you never miss any of these instant reaction episodes following big news or the daily shows that we do over here. And this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. And let's get into it. So I woke up at around 7:30 a.m. Pacific time on Super Bowl Sunday to some exciting but pretty unexpected news. Notre Dame lost one of the best running back coaches in the country in Dylan McCullough, who is now with the Las Vegas Raiders. And they went out and they hired one of the best running back coaches in the entire country to replace him in Ja'Juan Seider. This is a pretty surprising move around college football, considering Penn State has one of the best, if not the best, running back duo in college football in Nicholas Singleton and Ja'Juan Allen. Seider has been with Penn State for 7 years, and Notre Dame just went out and got him. I didn't even consider him as a potential candidate when I did my reaction to the Dylan McCullough news, and I was talking about where Notre Dame went from here. I felt like it was going to be a highly coveted position because Notre Dame has such a great running back room, but to go out there and poach a guy from Penn State who is poised to have a great season next year is a big-time move, and it shows a great show of intent by Marcus Freeman. Like, hey, we can lose a great assistant coach, but that doesn't mean that they can't go out there and get someone who is just as good to replace him. And that is no shade at all to Dylan McCullough. He is a fantastic coach, but I feel like what Notre Dame is getting in Ja'Juan Seider is right up there with Dylan McCullough. He is an elite developer. He's a top-tier recruiter, and I expect him to be a great scheme and cultural fit with Notre Dame as well. So let's dive into Seider's background. He has been Penn State's running back coach since 2018. He's had a rapid rise in the coaching ranks. He's been promoted at Penn State multiple times since 2018. He was promoted to run game coordinator back in 2020 and then co-offensive coordinator after 2022. And now he's the assistant head coach for Penn State as well. And I actually expect him to retain some of those titles when he comes to Notre Dame because, make no mistake about it, Notre Dame had to pay up to get Seider to leave Penn State and come over to Notre Dame. Dylan McCullough was very highly compensated when he was at Notre Dame. And for Notre Dame to go out there and get a coach to make a lateral move, they certainly had to pay up to do it. And when you are paying these assistants, you have to kind of add some of these titles as well. So like run game coordinator, associate head coach. Dylan McCullough was associate head coach, so I expect that to be the same, even though I don't believe Seider is going to be the co-offensive coordinator with Mike Denbrock. So he's going to be paid very well at Notre Dame, and for good reasons. He has a great proven track record. Nicholas Singleton and Ja'Juan Allen are two of the best running backs in all of college football. Notre Dame got to see that firsthand in the college football playoff semifinal. So he has built that room to be a dominant force across college football. He recruited those guys. He developed those guys. As a matter of fact, he was able to land Nicholas Singleton over Notre Dame. Now, Lance Taylor was the running backs coach for Notre Dame at the time, but that was a huge commitment because Singleton was one of the best running backs in the entire class that year, and both of these guys, Singleton and Allen, had over 1,000-yard rushing in 2024, and that's very important because Notre Dame has a bunch of running backs who are very talented. It's not just Jeremiah Love, and it's not just Jadarian Price. Aeneas Williams, who was a true freshman last season, really emerged, played a big role for Notre Dame in the college football playoff, and there are a lot of carries that are going to have to go around. Plus, you have Kedron Young, who's going to be entering his second season with the program, but he'll be a redshirt freshman. So those are four guys in that room that probably deserve some carries, and Seider has shown a willingness, maybe not even a willingness, a desire to give all those backs in the room multiple carries throughout the game, so that way you maximize their production, you keep them fresh, and that is something that Marcus Freeman has prioritized as well. It's something that he actually uses as a recruiting tool. Like, hey, you're going to come to Notre Dame, you're going to get the ball early and often in your career. It doesn't matter if you're a freshman. If you can play, and you will get time on this team, but they're also not going to run you into the ground, so that way when it is time to go to the NFL, you're still going to be pretty fresh. You're not going to have as many carries, and I feel like that's a big factor for these running backs when they head to the NFL because the lifespan of these running backs is not really that long, so if they're able to preserve their legs and manage their career for as long as possible, that's really great. So I think that is a big reason why Marcus Freeman wanted him, because he has shown a desire to do that. So for Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price, they got to be ecstatic, right? I'm sure it was a bummer losing Dylan McCullough because he has been so important to their career so far. But for Notre Dame to go out and get a guy who has such a proven track record in college, has already developed two of the best running backs in college football, for him to now come over to Notre Dame and coach these guys, like that's got to be really exciting for them. And as I said, he is an elite recruiter. So now Notre Dame has this great stretch of running backs that dates beyond just, Love and Price. They had Audric Esme, Kyron Williams. Now he's going to come in and he's going to attract more top running back talent to Notre Dame. And he can also use the fact that he left Penn State to go to Notre Dame as a recruiting tool, because he can still say that he developed Singleton and that he developed Allen. But as good as those guys are, he wanted to be at a place like Notre Dame and coach Jeremiah Love and coach Jadarian Price and Aeneas Williams. And I think that's sort of my biggest question in all of this is, why was he ready to leave, right? Because he has such a great situation at Penn State. Singleton and Allen both decided to come back one more year. Penn State went out and got Jim Knowles. They are going to be either 1 or 2 or 3 in all the preseason polls. Like, they are going all in on this year. So it is a bit of a surprise to everyone that he would decide to leave Penn State and come over to Notre Dame. And talking to Zach Seko, who's actually the host of Locked On Nittany Lions, who did a crossover episode before the college football playoff game, he thinks it might just have to do with the fact that there hasn't really been that much upward mobility in 7 years, and it's just time for a change. I don't really expect him to be a future candidate to be the offensive coordinator at Notre Dame, because I project Mike Denbrock to be around for a long time, but it doesn't really matter why at this point. I'm sure he's going to get into it at his introductory press conference, but I think the big thing here is that Notre Dame just went out and got the best of the best, which is, what you want to say all the time, right? You want to go out there and get the best available, but then to actually do it, to poach a guy from Penn State who is primed to make another run of the college football playoff, has a great running back room, like the situation over there seems more than great. And then for Marcus Freeman to go out there and get one of the best coaches in college football to come over to Notre Dame just shows you the direction that this program is headed in. Like, they went to the national championship, but they are not satisfied at all. They want to get back there and then win in that game. And Notre Dame has made it very clear. They want to run the ball. They want to be a program that is driven by the offensive and defensive line. And Notre Dame is going to continue to run the ball and lean on winning in the line of scrimmage. So when you go out there and you get a running backs coach of this caliber, it shows you that, hey, they're not going to change things around. Even though Dylan McCullough left, they're still going to be a physical run-first team. And I think that's exactly what you should expect from this roster. They have one of the best offensive lines in the country coming back. They have a loaded running back room, and now they have another great coach on the staff to help maximize that talent across the board. So I think that is just, it's nothing but good things for this Notre Dame offense right now to go out there and get a guy like Ja'Juan Seider. I'm really pumped up about it. I also think that there's going to be an impact as well on the recruiting trail, because Notre Dame and Penn State go after a lot of the same guys, especially at running back. Messiah Mickens has already visited Notre Dame. Could Seider sway him? That's something to consider. And then you've got Javian Mallory. He has a Notre Dame and Penn State offer. Savion Hyder, he has a Notre Dame, Penn State offer as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how that shakes out, how Notre Dame is able to maximize this opportunity on the recruiting trail. But overall, this is just a great, great hire for Notre Dame. And I'm going to talk about this more this week on the show. I'm going to have to, really dive into this because, again, I'm recording this not even an hour after the news release. So I'm sure we're going to find out more details about how this went down, because Notre Dame moved really quickly on this. Dylan McCullough left just a few days ago, and Notre Dame already hired his replacement. And I think that search basically started from scratch, because usually Marcus Freeman has some prior connection to a lot of the coaches that he's hired. You think about Gino Guidugli, Mike Brown, Mike Denbrock, even. Like, he's worked together with a lot of the coaches on his staff, and that's how it works, right? Like, head coaches want to build a staff of people that they know that they're comfortable with. But this is someone who, as far as I know, has no prior connection to Marcus Freeman or Notre Dame. It's just simply that Marcus Freeman wanted to get the best running back coach to replace Dylan McCullough, and it looks like he got that. right? And as I always say, you never know exactly how these assistant coaches are going to turn out, specifically at coordinators. But when you have someone like Seider, who is such a proven track record, has developed and recruited some of the best running backs in all of college football, there is no reason that he won't be able to do the same at a place like Notre Dame, where he's going to have all the resources imaginable, and he has players like Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price to sort of set the road and establish a foundation for him, because I think that this is just such a great move, and it's going to have long-lasting implications for the program. So that is going to do it for this instant reaction episode of the show. I'm going to be back tomorrow morning. I actually did a crossover episode with Brian Smith on his new podcast for the Locked On Podcast Network called The Portal. So that's going to go out on Monday. We recorded that at the end of last week. And then I'm going to be back on Tuesday, going to be talking more about this big-time hire for Notre Dame and Ja'Juan Seider. So make sure that you're subscribed on YouTube or wherever you're listening to the podcast. And enjoy Super Bowl Sunday, everybody. I'll see you on Monday.